let's go to the hotline pickle. And let's bring in the small college insider for Dave Campbell's Texas football. We are joined by our good friend, Cory Hogue. Cory, how are you?
I'm doing great, Greg, but I feel like I'm really just a filler until you guys get to the barbecue segment.
Look, look, that's tough but fair.
We can always respect a person that knows their place here.
That's self-awareness, and I appreciate it. It's one of the many reasons we love you here. We appreciate you hopping on. Obviously, I think in the small college ranks, all eyes are going to be on what's happening on Sunday in Huntsville when Sam Houston takes on North Dakota State. I guess my first question for you is, do you have a read on this game? And if so, because I think from the outset, like I think if you zoom into just 2021, you'd say, oh, well, Sam Houston, they've been the superior team. They look like the team to beat. They are at home. But if you zoom out, these two teams have a history, and it has not favored the Bearcats.
It has not. And this game is so tough for me to pick. The preview was very, trying to make that prediction was really tough, mainly because North Dakota State has won 8 of the last 9 national titles, but they're not the same North Dakota State. They're filled with freshmen. They have played 31 true freshmen or redshirt freshmen this spring. A lot of their great players are off to the NFL draft here starting tonight. And so that's one thing. The other thing is they have one loss to Sam Houston in 6 meetings, and that was the only time they played them in Bauer Stadium, where they'll be playing this week. The other part of this, though, is with North Dakota State knowing where they're at, it's ESPN. This is a national televised game. All eyes of the entire football world will be on that game on Sunday afternoon. I don't know that Sam Houston has ever had a television crowd that size.
Yeah, being on big ESPN is a different animal. I mean, I think people are going to be aware of the scope of this game, and all eyes are going to be on it. All eyes, like the NFL draft is going to be over. I mean, this is going to be the big sporting event here on Sunday. I want to ask a little bit about what happened last week with Sam Houston, in that they run out to a 21-0 lead over Monmouth, and then kind of have to hang on late. It seems to me from the outside, and I didn't watch every single second of this game, but I did watch a fair bit of it because I turned it off when it was 21-0. It seems to me that for the first time this year, it felt like the offense for Sam Houston maybe hit a little bit of a snag. Is that concerning for you going into this quarterfinal matchup with North Dakota State?
Firstly, I think you have to give Monmouth a lot of credit, and I know K.C. Keeler did after the game. He is very aware of his team. That's what makes him such a great coach. And by the way, he's never lost a home playoff game in his career, and Sam Houston has never lost a home playoff game in the FCS playoffs. So there's that working this week as well. After the game, he gave a lot more credit to Monmouth because the offense was moving for Sam Houston, but then Monmouth went on this long drive where they started taking advantage of some of the aggressiveness of Sam Houston. Sam Houston likes to play a lot of man and really come at you. And so they took advantage of that with some quick screenplays, some quick hitters. And that really changed kind of that dynamic of the game. They had that long drive, late third quarter, early fourth. They scored, and then they went for 2. And that really kind of added that extra punch, and then Sam Houston went 3 and out on offense. Monmouth has the ball back, and before you know it, they're hanging on at the end. He knows that offense has to be good this week, and that offense is going to have to stay on the field because they are facing a team that North Dakota State has injuries. They started 3 new players on their offensive line last week, a lot of freshmen, but they still ran for over 420 yards against Eastern Washington with those guys making their first collegiate starts. So the Bearcats offense has to stay on the field.
Talking with Cory Hogue, our small college football insider here on Texas Football Today. Get involved in the conversation at #TF Today. Okay, so there were a number of other teams, obviously 27 in all small college teams that played this year. here in the spring. One thing I'm interested in is the season is over for the JUCOs are still going on. They got a couple more weeks, but for everybody else, the season is over with the exception of Sam Houston. I think when people think of small college football in the state of Texas, they think about Mary Hardin-Baylor. There is no Division III national championship this year. They went 5-0, and that's it. High five, like we're done. Do you have what is your read on what we saw from Mary Hardin-Baylor this year as it pertains to what we may see for them in just a couple of months when they tee off in the fall?
First off, Mary Hardin-Baylor has a defense. They always have a championship-level defense, and it's not going to be any different this year. The other thing is they had a quarterback change at the end of the season, and that's going to be an interesting competition heading into the fall is who's going to get those snaps and kind of keep that offense rolling. Because that's really the big key. If they can get that offense going, they've got a defense that's going to challenge for a championship spot again.
So it's not a surprise that Sam Houston is good. It's not a surprise that Mary Hardin-Baylor was good in their spring season. But what team did surprise you? In the small college ranks here in the state of Texas, are there one or two teams that you would say exceeded your expectations when it came to what we saw here in the spring?
There's really two good teams. One of them is Incarnate Word just because of, Cameron Ward, the quarterback. Nobody really saw him coming, and he really came out and did a great job moving from a triple option offense to leading a potent, high-powered shotgun offense. It was what he's done is incredible. The other one is UTPB. They went 5-0, and that last win they had at home over Midwestern is the kind of win that can change that program for Justin Kerrigan moving forward. It's almost that signature win they needed. They've been improving every year, and now they seem ready to challenge for the top of that Lone Star Conference, which this year is going to be really interesting.
It most certainly will. And finally, I want to ask you about one other team in the small college ranks that I think got off to a hot start and I think surprised a lot of people from the beginning. And maybe scuffle a little bit down the stretch, and that's Tarleton. Of course, making the move up to the FCS this year. I'm interested in your overall takeaways from what we saw from the Texans, which at times looked really, really good, and at other times maybe fell flat of what we were thinking they might be.
Inconsistency. That's the one word that really comes to mind for Tarleton this spring. They could play really well, and then they'd have games the offense could just do nothing. That defense is still pretty good. But we also have to remember they're playing first-year transition, mostly a Division II roster. And the other thing in talking with Coach Todd Whitten, they are really kind of transforming how they operate their program. They're moving from – in Division II, they tried to what he calls stay old. They tried to get a lot of transfer guys, a lot of JUCO guys, stay experienced. Now he feels the best way to go in FCS is to go with a lot of freshmen. So they have brought in around 40 freshmen. They've used scholarships on. They had a big senior class in 2019, and they've replaced all them with freshmen. And when you have that kind of youth, it leads to the inconsistency. But considering it was year one of transition and they already were in the top 25, there's good things ahead for Tarleton as they move into what's going to be a great WAC conference.
He's Cory Hogue. He's our small college football insider here at Dave Campbell's Texas Football. You can see his fine work at texasfootball.com. Cory, really appreciate your time as always, my man, and enjoy the game on Sunday.
Thank you so much. I am going to enjoy the game, and I'm going to go ahead and click on here to hear about this barbecue because now, it's time for me to get out of the way and let the good stuff happen.
That's a smart man. Thanks, Cory.
Thank you.
There he goes, Cory Hogue, our small college insider here on texasfootball.com. Dave Campbell's Texas Football.